At 3:47 a.m., 12 hours after the Senate voted to convict and remove the president, federal law enforcement officers entered the Oval Office. The team included 4 deputy U.S. Marshals, 3 Secret Service agents acting under orders from Director Kimberly Cheadle, and 1 FBI supervisor overseeing coordination. Inside the room, they found the former president seated alone at the Resolute desk, quietly reviewing documents. The lead marshal identified himself and said, "Sir, the United States Senate has convicted and removed you from office. You are no longer president. We are here to assist with your departure from the White House. Will you come with us willingly?" According to sources in the room, the former president replied, "This is unlawful. I am still the president. I was chosen by the American people. You do not have the authority to remove me." The marshal responded calmly, "Sir, under the Constitution, the Senate has the power to remove a president upon conviction. That authority was exercised yesterday. We are carrying out a lawful order. Please come with us." At 4:03 a.m., 16 minutes after agents entered the Oval Office, the former president exited the White House for the final time. Subscribe to this channel now, because what I'm about to explain is not about winning or losing politically. This is the moment the American constitutional system demonstrated that its most serious remedy can be enforced, even when a president refuses to accept it. This is the Secret Service, as Director Cheadle promised, carrying out the lawful transfer of power. And this is democracy surviving its most severe test. Turn on notifications and set them to all, because the constitutional crisis that consumed the nation for weeks came to an end at 4:03 a.m., when the former president left the building. The real question now is what kind of country emerges from this moment, and whether the institutions that enforced removal can retain public trust. Here's what unfolded during the 12 hours between the Senate convictee on and the physical removal, because the timeline shows exactly how the standoff ended. At 6:23 p.m., U.S. Marshals arrived at the White House's Northwest Gate and were stopped by Secret Service agents still loyal to the former president. That confrontation continued throughout the evening. At 8:47 p.m., Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle arrived personally. She entered through a secure access point and met with agents assigned to the presidential detail. According to sources, she told them directly, "The Senate has removed him. He is no longer president. Our loyalty is to the Constitution, not to any individual. We will not block the lawful execution of a Senate conviction. Any agent who interferes with federal law enforcement will be dismissed and may face prosecution." At 9:34 p.m., 3 agents left the White House and joined the protective detail of the new president. At 10:15 p.m., 2 more followed. By midnight, only 7 Secret Service agents remained with the former president, and even those 7 were uncertain. At 1:47 a.m., Director Cheadle met with the remaining agents and issued a final order. Stand down, allow entry, facilitate departure, or resign immediately and face consequences. At 2:34 a.m., the final holdouts stood aside. The way was clear. At 3 a.m., the U.S. Marshals Service, working alongside the Secret Service and FBI, finalized the plan. 4 marshals would enter the Oval Office. 3 Secret Service agents would accompany them to show institutional support. The FBI would secure the perimeter. The objective was peaceful compliance, but the marshals were authorized to use force if the former president resisted. At 3:47 a.m., they entered. Hit the like button if you understand what just occurred. Federal law enforcement removed a former president from the White House 12 hours after Senate conviction because he refused to leave voluntarily. The algorithm decides what spreads. You decide whether this analysis reaches people who need to see it. The confrontation lasted 16 minutes. The former president was not alone. 2 personal aides were present, a private attorney and a political advisor. Both were instructed to leave. They complied. The former president was given a choice: leave willingly or be escorted. According to sources, he said, "I will not leave voluntarily. Removing me violates the Constitution. I will challenge this in court. I will take this to the American people, but I will not walk out of this office freely." The lead marshal responded, "Sir, we respect your position, but the law is clear. The Senate convicted and removed you. We are required to enforce that decision. We prefer this to be peaceful. Will you walk with us, or must we escort you?" The former president stood up, gathered personal belongings, papers, a phone, a photograph, and said, "You are making a historic mistake. The American people will remember this. I am being removed unlawfully. But I will not give you the satisfaction of dragging me out. I will walk. Under protest. At 4:03 a.m., he exited the Oval Office, flanked by U.S. Marshals. Former Secret Service agents who had stood down watched silently. He walked through the West Wing, across the South Lawn, and into a waiting vehicle. Not Marine One, not a presidential motorcade, a standard black SUV. The vehicle departed the White House grounds. For the first time since the crisis began, the White House was no longer occupied by someone the Senate had removed from office. Drop a comment and tell me, do you believe this removal was constitutional, or do you agree with the former president that it was illegal? At 4:15 a.m., the new president entered the White House, not as acting president, not as vice president, but as president. He sat at the resolute desk and issued his first executive order. All federal agencies are directed to resume normal operations under the lawful chain of command. The constitutional crisis is over. That order went to every agency, every department, every military command. At 6:08 a.m., the new president received his first national security briefing. At 7 a.m., global networks broke the story. At 8 a.m., Senate leadership addressed the nation. At 9 a.m., the Chief Justice issued a statement affirming the Senate's authority. At 11 a.m., the new president spoke from the Oval Office, urging unity and acceptance of constitutional reality. And now the country waits, because what happened last night has never happened before. For over 2 centuries, impeachment existed mostly in theory. Last night, it was enforced in reality. At 3:47 a.m., agents entered. At 4:03 a.m., the former president left. At 4:15 a.m., the new president arrived. The system was pushed to its absolute limit, and it held. The consequences will unfold for years. Stay with this channel. The crisis has ended, but history has just begun.